Okay, hello, English 2. So let's talk about Act 5 because a lot happens at the end of the play. And actually, I love the graphic novel version of Act 5, the way it is depicted, like the ending battle and war. So definitely check that out as a resource on Google Classroom. So in Act 5, Scene 1, we find that Lady Macbeth is sleepwalking, and the doctor and her lady or her servant overhear her sleepwalking and hear what she's saying. So, especially, she's walking around, and she's trying to wash the blood off her hand, saying, out, out, damned spot. So, it's this thought that Lady Macbeth is now haunted by guilt. Now, one can interpret if she's haunted by the guilt of murdering King Duncan, or if she's truly haunted because she has corrupted her husband, who she loved, and now Macbeth is a murderer. So um, it's important to note that the doctor and her servant overhear her say, "Who would have thought the old man had so much blood in him?" So they know, they suspect now that Lady Macbeth and Macbeth had something to do with King Duncan's murder, aka they murdered him. And so this blood represents her guilt. So, as Malcolm and Macduff's army advances, Macbeth is super fixated on the witch's prophecies. And he's like, you know what? I'm solid. I'm good because Birnam Wood, he's not going to be defeated unless the wood outside his castle comes to Dunsinane, the hill where his castle lies. So he has this like false sense of hope here. Now, what the audience knows is that Malcolm's army, they have cut the branches from Birnam Wood to use as camouflage. So that is how the witch's prophecy comes true, because they take Birnam Wood at like the forest, the branches, and they literally use it on their armor, and they camouflage themselves to get closer and closer to Macbeth's castle. So it's not like literally the wood is moving, it's that they used it as camouflage. So Lady Macbeth dies off stage. You don't actually see her suicide on stage, which is interesting to note that Shakespeare, in the 1500s, rather, 1600s, made this epic woman, female character who is the one in charge of her relationship, and she makes all the decisions, and she's the brave one, and she comes up with all the plans. And then after, making this character, he just has her commit suicide off stage. So one can wonder, was Shakespeare a feminist, or in having Lady Macbeth just commit suicide at the end, especially not even let her have her death on stage, how much emphasis does he really put on that character? But that's a whole nother topic. So when Macbeth is told that Lady Macbeth dies, he remarks that life is a brief candle. So I want to go back to this quote. Don't mind Nigel barking. Shocker. He's always barking during my lessons. So this is the quote we analyzed in our Themes in Macbeth activity last week. "But life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." So in our interpretation, Macbeth says that life is short, it's pointless, it's meaningless. You're on stage for like an hour and then you're forgotten. So what's the point? And we also noted that at this point, Macbeth has lost all feeling because he's a murderer. And this is his reaction to a wife that he once loved. And it's really quite sad that he has no reaction to her death. So as we continue on in Act 5, we have the actual battle and the war. So Macduff confronts Macbeth. And at first, Macbeth has this like false sense of hope because he's like, well, I can't be killed because I can't be killed from a man born of woman. But haha, what Macbeth does not know, and Macduff reveals this to Macbeth, that he was untimely ripped from his mother's womb and not born naturally, meaning he was born via C-section. So, aka, he wasn't actually born, quote unquote, of woman traditionally. So, when Macbeth realizes that all of the prophecies has come true, he's going to die. But instead of like falling on his Roman sword, which is an allusion to the play Julius Caesar, he fights till the end. And he's like, well, I'm just going to at least die fighting. So he dies fighting, but Macduff does, in fact, kill him and puts his head on a spike. And then Malcolm becomes king. So Macduff presents the severed head to Malcolm, and he's hailed King of Scotland. Now, something that a lot of directors do at the end of this scene after Malcolm becomes king. So a lot of plays and movies will show this. And I really like the most recent version of Macbeth with Michael Fassbender because they do a really great job of showing young Fleance. But we know, the audience knows, Malcolm's king now, but he's not going to be king for long, because if all of these prophecies of the witches have come true so far, then the audience knows there's someone else who's actually meant to be king, and that someone is Banquo's descendants, his son Fleance. So even though Fleance is quite young here, the audience knows that he's going to eventually seek vengeance and continue the strife and civil war that's gone on in Scotland, and he's going to take the crown for himself as he gets older. If you look at your graphic novel, it's really cool because the way it's depicted there, and this will take a moment for me to pull up. So if you look at the graphic novel, you have Fleance here. So there's Macbeth's head on a spike. Let's do this. There's Macbeth's head on a spike. Yeah, and that's Macduff holding his head. And boom, here we have Malcolm with the crown. And here is like the warriors, everyone in battle, going by with the flags of Malcolm and Scotland. But who is this right here? Oh, it's Fleance, and you can see he's foreshadowed to have the crown. So he's like visualizing, dreaming about it, manifesting, and he's going to go get that crown in the end. So I love this image at the end of the graphic novel because it shows the witches are still very much playing a part of this play, even though we don't actually see them. So that is your Act 5. Let me know if you have questions.